Hey there, welcome to part 22, your Firebird update. As always, a lot's changed. May not look it, but let me pop the hood and let's get into it. Well, as per usual, I take forever making these update videos. A lot's changed. Gotta keep my list. So, let's just get into things. One of the main things that I fought since getting this running, by the way, I've got about a little over 500 miles on it. Today I'm planning on changing the oil, checking it out, and maybe we'll go for a test trip later. But the biggest thing I was facing was the dreaded Sniper RFI / EMI interference. So in the last video, the whole thing with the Sniper saying no data and cutting off and just acting weird, started digging into the wiring. So the wiring is not as pretty as I had it. I had it all bundled up and nice looking. It just needed some loom. So I've gone through and separated wires off of this Sniper connector, wrapped that wire that goes to that coil driver in some what you call it, tape, that shielding tape. Separated basically all the Sniper wires. That's why none of this is in aluminum anymore. I'm giving the 12 volt ignition to the Sniper straight from the battery here, via relay. So key activates this relay sends power to the 12 volts of the Sniper, and that still didn't fix my issue. I was still having issues. It got better, a lot better, but I was still having issues of it cutting out. I could sit here and idle in the shop and it would just idle just fine, sound perfect for anywhere from 10 to 45 minutes, and then it would just die like you cut the key off. So not fun, not dependable. It was really getting on my nerves. I think the combination of all the rewiring, and I bought a set of MSD superconductor wires, the 8.5 millimeter superconductor wires, and some boots, because some heat sleeves, because I did notice a couple of the boots were a little singed and burnt. So one of them may have been causing a misfire, but I don't think that was my problem. But as soon as I put on that new set of plugs after all the wiring I did, boom, I've had no issue since. So it was a combination of all of that. I don't think any one thing in particular fixed it, but you know, if you're having RFI issues with your Sniper, even though I had a brand new set of Excel super stock plugs, I mean they weren't cheap plug wires, go ahead and try either a Magnum Core set if you can get them, or the next best thing is these MSD superconductors, which I picked up at Summit. Past that, after I had it running well and dependable, and I was actually had confidence in it, I was having a fuel pressure issue. So I permanently mounted that fuel pressure gauge, had to reroute some lines, make a small AN line, kind of just played with the fittings I had till I made something work, and that's what revealed my fuel pressure issue. So I'll roll in screenshot, but I was running this Earl's 10 micron little baby filter on the rear frame rail, and it was clogged. I mean, I was getting over 40 but less than 50 psi, which the Sniper runs, it needs 58 psi to run. So as soon as I put that fuel pressure gauge in there, I figure if you got to do it twice, you might as well make it permanent. So I made it permanent, replaced it with a bigger traditional style fuel filter from O'Reilly's, I believe it's the same one that comes in the Sniper Master Kit if you ordered that. Put that on. I've gone a couple hundred miles, no issues. Fuel pressure gauge still reads 60-62 psi, and everything's been good. She takes throttle. She scoots. She scoots for sure. I had some other issues along the way. When I did start driving it, transmission temperatures got almost up to 220, a little higher than I liked. So I should have done this to begin with, but I don't know, you might be able to see it down there. I put a transmission cooler in there, and also redid my transmission lines because one of them was a little close to the header way in the back, and got a little singed, but not enough to hurt it. They were still braided on the inside. So I mean, it's the same -6 AN Evil Energy kit, but I was able to redo those lines. Everything's good there. Trans temps have come way down. I don't think I've seen over 200 since then, which is a good thing. I made a plate here and mounted it so I just had that coolant overflow zip tied up under there. I needed a place to permanently mount it. So I made that plate so I could mount that and that windshield washer reservoir, which there's a funny clip of that I'll roll in here now of when I tested it. Well, let's see if I screwed up this windshield washer pump. It'll take a second to prime, I'm sure. Hey, look at that. Did it shoot over? Yep, it's all back there. Ah, that's funny. Let's try that again. Yep, that's not gonna work. I gotta fix that. So yeah, that gave me a laugh. I'm glad I recorded that. I fixed it. I mean, it was just bending the little jets up there down some. Another issue I was having that I pointed out in part 20, I think it was, of the Firebird updates, and that was the starter. Just about every time now, this starter has started doing the same thing that the old one did, where when you turn the key, it would just, the Bendix would pop out and just hit the flywheel. It wouldn't engage. So I was thinking, great, I don't want to separate the transmission and the engine and all that stuff. Pull the flex plate. Pull the flex plate off, and make sure it was not messed up or having to replace it or whatever, because it was second starter that was doing it. With this starter, it only did it when it was hot, and it was pretty consistent every time it was hot. So as an experiment, I took it for a drive, came home, parked it in the garage or in the shop here, and tried to turn the key, and click, 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 wouldn't engage. So I was like, all right, I'm not going to touch anything. I rolled up the windows, shut the doors, went to the house. Next day I came down here, turned the key, fired right up. So that kind of ruled out possibly being a heat issue. And I got to doing some research and figured out that one of the troubleshooting steps was, if it didn't start hot or cold, is to run a thicker ignition wire. And I had ran, because I didn't know any better, I had ran this green wire right here. That's probably a 16 gauge or 14 gauge, maybe a 14 gauge. I ran that wire to the starter solenoid, and that goes all the way through the bulkhead connector to the key switch. So what I did since I had this relay laying around, is this relay, I mean that ignition, when you turn the key, now triggers this relay, and I've got 10 gauge wire coming from the starter solenoid to this relay, and from the other side of the relay to my 12 volt lug that I got down there. It's kind of dark. See that wire going that way? So now whenever I turn the key, the relay gives it direct voltage, pretty much directly from the battery, because there's a big cable. The big cable that goes to the starter also terminates there, but then goes under the core support and up through that loom to my cutoff switch over there. Since this was a Chinesium relay, it's the only one I had on hand, I also put a momentary switch here so I can turn the engine over by, well, it bypasses that relay, so I can turn the engine over even with the key off. So that's good for, you know, if I got to mess with a distributor or anything like that. But yeah, that seems to have fixed the starter issue. I haven't tested it a whole lot yet. Went for a ride on a couple days ago and cut it off and on when it was hot 5 or 6 times, and so far every time it's been good. So hopefully that fixes that. I'm getting more confidence the more I drive it in doing that. Let's see, what else. One thing I did notice, I had those filters on the valve covers on both sides, and I was getting a lot of just oil vapor and garbage on the valve covers and stuff like that. So I looked up a PCV valve, which is right there, and installed it on that side. Ran the vacuum line into the Sniper, kept the fuel filter on that side, and that has solved that problem. So I'm not getting oil and all that stuff coming through that filter, just the vapors and settling on everything in the engine bay, just coating it in oil. So glad that solved that. Let's see, went to get it aligned, and they ran out of adjustment on these upper control arm bars right here. So this side is, yeah, so this side right here is all the way in. There's no shims in that side, and probably, what is that, 3/4 to an inch worth of shims on that side. They had to do the same thing on the other side just to get them as close as possible. So my alignment is not the greatest, but it's a hell of a lot better than the ghetto shop alignment I tried to do here in the shop, which I could not get the same measurement twice to save my life. Let's see, I'm looking at my notes here. I've got all the weather stripping done. There's the cowl weather stripping there. I've done the trunk weather stripping, the door weather stripping, and the window weather strippings. So all those are done. So the car is almost waterproof now. There are a couple of holes in the trunk that are just rotten that I need to fix, and then also install the taillight gaskets around the taillights. So all that stuff will be coming off. I installed a cheap horn from Amazon, just a little cheap air horn. You can see it down there. It is pretty loud, but you know, it's a horn. I tested the ones that came off the car. One of them worked, one of them didn't, and that was about $150 cheaper than replacement horns. I think that was like 30 bucks. So I figure it's right there, it's easy to get to. If I have any issues with it, I'll just do something else. But it's an actual air horn. It's got a little compressor on it and the little air horn right there, so it's good. That cable right here, hood release cable, I bought a cheap one off Amazon. First time I went to go open the hood, the damn handle broke off, so I had to order another one. And then I promptly lost the pin that connects to this which it's a special pin. You can't just use a bolt or anything like that. I dropped it somewhere in the shop, and I spent a couple of hours crawling around on the floor in the dirt, and it was nowhere to be found. The shop ate it, so I had to order a new one of those. Let's see what else. Let's see, I went over my RFI problems, the fuel filter problems, hood release, horn, PCV valve, windshield washer. That was funny. I did have to clearance the transmission cross member because the exhaust was hitting it, or actually resting up against it, and I didn't. It was on the passenger side there, so you know I didn't want the motor to rock and just crack a weld on the headers or something worse. So clearance that. Now I can get my fingers up in between it. I do have an exhaust rattle or a squeak that I'm trying to hunt down. So hopefully I can find some witness marks or something today. I talked about the alignment, weather strippings, starter. Yeah. So in addition to all this under the hood, I did have the Sniper handheld right here, but I didn't like looking at it that way because the steering wheel and the blinker stick just got in the way. It got annoying, so I mounted it there next to the transmission controller, and I like it there a lot better. Had a friend 3D print some different parts, and he actually gave me the idea of using the GoPro accessories, and he provided me with quite a few different parts. I ended up only using one, but still got it done. I'm a lot happier with it right there. It's a lot easier to read and see. So yeah, other than that, the inside, I still don't have the door panels on either side because I need to install the 6.5-inch speakers. But when the windows are up, there's a bar that goes across where that hole is already cut right there, and I don't know how that's going to work yet. I just haven't tackled it yet, but that doesn't stop me from driving. So what else? What else? I mean, I know I've been rambling on for about 15 minutes now. What's next? What's next is going to be, I need to figure out those AC lines because it's hot now. I turned the fan off so I could record this video, and I'm sweating. So yeah, the AC system, I just need to figure out the lines, and should be able to pull a vacuum on it and charge it, and hopefully that's good to go. I've got the holes in the trunk that I need to fix somehow. The door cards, speakers. I've been tuning the transmission, computer, and the Sniper. I got the transmission tuned pretty good. Just been playing with it. Haven't spent a whole lot of time tuning it. The 1-2 shift on this thing, it'll chirp the tires just about every time. It's there. You know it's there. The 2-3 and 3-4 shift, they're a lot softer. I did reduce the line pressure of the 1-2 shift down to the same as the 2-3 shift, and it helps some, but I mean it's still there for sure. I removed the slapper bars that I had on the back because I wasn't happy with them. It's the slapper bars my dad had on here, and I think what I'm going to do eventually, probably sooner than later, is I'm just going to build my own because I've got all the stuff to do it. I think it'll be a fun little project. So I'm going to keep tuning with the Sniper, keep doing the trans computer tweaking. This wiring, I'm not in a hurry to clean it up, but that is on the list of what I want to do because I just obliterated all of this and not super happy about it. I had those old wires spark plug wires all zip tied and all ran nice and neat. When I put the sleeves on there, I could no longer do that, but yeah, I'm not worried about that. It's running good. I'm just going to leave that part like it is and clean up all this other wiring junk that I've made a mess with, at least the best I can, and you know, not high priority. And I'm sure there's other miscellaneous stuff that needs to be done. I'm going to today, I've got it over here on the lift. I'm going to lift it up in the air, change the oil since I've got 500 miles on it. I think I'm going to go with the Valvoline VR1 10W30 since oil pressure is 60 and 70 cold or at RPM, and fully hot heat soaked it gets down to about 30. So I think that's probably a good range for the small block 383. And let's see what else. Oh yeah, while I've got it up in the air, I'm going to do a bolt check on everything and hopefully figure out some witness marks or something showing me where my exhaust is still squeaking. It's been a while since you guys have seen the underside of the car, so I figured I'd take you along for my inspection. I'll check bolts and stuff here shortly, but I'll give you guys a look. There's transmission cooler, the horn. You look up in there, you can see my wiring. You can see that orange thing right there. That's a load resistor. Had to do that to get the blinker indicators to work correctly. I was trying to avoid that, but ended up having to run them anyway. But yeah, just giving you guys a different view of things since you haven't seen it in a while. So ignore the big fan. It's hot, so it is what it is. There's some ladybugs. And also ignore all the mud. I live on a dirt road and I got a mud puddle in my driveway, so nothing I can do about that. I'm just going around kind of looking for anything that looks out of place. Man, this thing is dirty. So far on the front end here, everything's looking good. I just finished changing the oil. I still need to put oil in it, but changed the filter. I wrapped the starter in a heat blanket. Didn't really need it, but figured I'd try it. Not seeing any major leaks. That's always good. There's a ground strap right there. Everything is looking good so far. Solid body bushings. There's that B&M shifter cable. Looks like my boot's a little off. I'll fix that. I need to seal up the hole up there where those wires go through and the cable goes through. It looks like I already have. I might have already done that. There's the clearancing that I did on the cross member right there. Subframe connectors look good. Not seeing any leaks in the exhaust before the mufflers. That's good. Those are Flowmaster 50 series Delta Flows. It is rubbing, a cable seems to be rubbing the drive shaft a little bit. I wonder if that's what's squeaking. I don't know. There's that fuel filter I was talking about. Had that little dinky one on there and it just, no, I wasn't happy with it. Fuel lines still look good. Not seeing any missing bolts. That's always a positive. Okay. Yeah, everything's looking good so far. No leakages. Heck yeah, just dirty, which it's inevitably forever going to be. Cool. Alright then, well, let me set her down, fill her up with oil, and maybe we'll go on a cruise here in a little while. See you soon. That's idle. Let's go for a ride.
comes quick. I'll be back. Come on, starter. didn't take off till it was right beside me.
I let the GoPro record till it died. We'll catch you next time on Chaos Garage.